Hey, what's up, everyone? Happy Friday. Happy New Year, everyone. How's everyone doing? Hope everyone had a wonderful, happy holidays and started off the new year right. I'm still fighting off a cold, which is horrible, but I'm here, ready to go. We got 8 more minutes to go. We have Jim Yu, the CEO and founder of BrightEdge, and we'll be talking about AI overviews. His tool, BrightEdge, has been collecting a lot of data on AI overviews, which is something that we will be talking about today. And he'll be sharing all his information that he's been collecting with the AI overviews. Kenneth, Happy New Year, Dre. Latanya, hi everyone. Natalie, fam, hello from SF. We got about 7 more minutes to go. Ernesto, yo, yo, yo. Yes, AI overviews is the topic of today. We'll be speaking with Jim Yu, the CEO and founder of BrightEdge. And I believe he has a feature called Generative Parser, which is part of BrightEdge, which has been collecting a lot of data. See a few of you out there, don't be shy. Say hi in the live chat. Got about 6 more minutes to go. I'm still waiting on Jim to show up in the back. It's a little quiet out there, guys. What you guys doing? Oh, yeah. If you have not seen the GBP Roast Show, it's live every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. GBP, go to youtube.com/@GBP Roast. There we focus on local SEO and map optimization with Jordan Pierce, JP, and Keith Lambeau Evans. So be sure to check it out every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm going to go straight into the interview today. I was still battling a cold. I didn't have some time to collect some videos this past week. Well, hopefully he'll be on. Got about 4 more minutes to go. I'm still waiting for him to hop in the back. Rayham.com, what's up, brother? We got about 4 more minutes to go. Jim Yu. We'll be talking about AI overviews. We'll have an AI's overviews masterclass today. Weird. We got about 3 more minutes to go, and we'll have our special guest today is Jim Yu, the founder and CEO of BrightEdge, and we'll be talking about AI overviews. We got about 3 more minutes. Hopefully, he's not having trouble coming in. Let's see. Got no email here. All right, we got about 2 more minutes to go. I'm still waiting for our guest to hop on the back end. Let me just double check my emails here. Make sure he's not having any problems. And not see any emails. I'll wait for, I'll hop on and talk for a minute. If he doesn't show up after about, let's say 5 more minutes after 12, I'm just gonna get more rest and try to fight off this cold before the next week. Yo, Loud Egg, what's up? If you're just tuning in, we're still waiting for Jim Yu, the founder and CEO of BrightEdge, and we'll be talking about AI overviews. He's going to give us a rundown on some industry trends that what his tool has been uncovering. If that's if he goes up. Okay, we got 30 more seconds. I'm going to go ahead and get things started and talk to you guys for a minute and see if he comes on. But
Hey, time to get it started, no delay, let's work. Wanna see you be an SEO expert. Paul Andre de Vera, steady dropping knowledge, over 15 years in the game, so he knows all about it. Master the art of SEO, you will be amazed. Time to get your brand off page to on page. Dropping knowledge, legendary for sure. Whether you're just getting started or self-employed entrepreneur. Yeah, let's go. Subscribe to the SEO video show.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the SEO video show where SEO is alive and fun. My name is Paul Andre de Vera, aka Dre, and I curate SEO videos released within the past week into about 1-minute clips. My favorite part of the show is when I get to introduce my guest, and my guest today is the founder and CEO of BrightEdge, Jim Yu. Hey Jim, what's up? How you doing? I see you in the back. Can you hear me okay?
Hi Dre, how you doing? Good to see you.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get straight into the interview, and I will do your introduction. I'll have you in about 2 minutes. So I'll just hold on just really quickly. All right, here we go. We got Jim in the back. And so if you're just tuning in, we will be talking about AI overviews with the founder and CEO of BrightEdge, Jim Yu. Before we get started, let's say what's up to everyone in chat. I see Loud Egg, Rayham, Fletcher, Nesto, Natalie, Latanya, Kenneth. Welcome everyone. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. All right, let's get on with the show.
Hey Dre, why do SEOs love the farmer's market? Lots of organic content.
All right, Google has just recently finished. It's rolling out 2 algorithm updates in December, the December score and spam updates. So be sure to check out your rankings and don't get too crazy if they've been fluctuating. Just wait a few more weeks to see what happens. Okay, I've been, again, like I mentioned, I've been under the weather this past week, so I will be going straight into the interview. So before we get started with the interview, I want to let you guys know about AI Marketeer. It was launched by a past guest, Andrew Ansley. AI Marketeer is where Andrew coaches and shows you how to build your own AI agents, which is something that I always wanted to do myself. AI Marketeer is where Andrew coaches you how to build your agents, replace dozens of SaaS subscriptions with AI, build a 6-figure business in months, not years, and he'll provide a one-on-one call, weekly live webinars, and his automation templates. Join now for just $20 before he doubles it up next month. Okay, check the link below for more information about it. Now let's get on with the show.
Jim is the founder and CEO of BrightEdge, the leading enterprise SEO and content platform. As a digital marketing industry expert, Jim speaks at conferences such as Share, Dreamforce, Adobe Summit, as well as Search Engine Expo and Search Engine Strategies worldwide. In addition, Jim contributes to ClickC, Marketland, Search Engine Strategies. Jim is widely recognized by driving the force behind the enterprise content marketing platform technology, having built his largest and most widely adopted platform, which has used over 20,000 digital marketing professionals and 8,400 brands. Please welcome Jim Yu.
Jim, my man, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dre. Great to be here. Good to see you.
Of course, it's been a while. I believe it's been about 4 years now since your last time you're on here. So I would look at welcome back. Everyone's give a round of applause.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna get right into it. This is the first question I ask all my SEO professionals that come on here. In 1 minute or less, how's Jim get ranking on page 1 of Google?
Sorry, what was that?
How do you get ranking in 1 minute or less? How would you tell someone to get ranking on page 1 of Google?
Oh, yeah. So I think first and foremost, it's all about making sure you understand where you can get strong topical authority. Where do you have the right to win in? And then creating content to make sure you win in the areas where you've got a right to win, right? So I think that's always, for me, it's always about understanding where do you have the right to win and where can you really sort of optimize in order to win in those areas.
Love it. First knowledge bomb of today. Let me rewind this. Okay, hold on. Take us way back when you first got into SEO. When was that?
Wow. Gosh, it would have been back about 25 years ago.
Ooh, wow.
Probably 25 years ago. And this was when Yahoo was still a search engine. And the Yahoo was a search engine. Microsoft I don't think they had Bing at the time. It was sort of, Yahoo and Google were the two dominant players.
Mm. Got it. So what actually made you interested in SEO?
So I had run websites for fun. And so to get traffic to those sites, I learned about, I was like, how do you, get traffic to these sites? And I learned about SEO to get traffic to the sites. And then at that time, I'm still like nostalgic a little bit about this. Meta keywords would work.
Yeah.
You put in, I was like, wow, you can actually pick the keyword you put into the meta description of a web page, and you would just rank for it and get traffic for that. I was like, that's crazy, right? And it was the same traffic that you'd have to bid on paid search forums. So I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is something where why? And then as I dug into it, I was like, why aren't any brands doing this? And that's really sort of the original idea behind BrightEdge.
Ooh, I love that. So how did you actually learn it then?
So the first thing I started doing is I started to play with the templates on these sites, right? And so I had this user-generated site, and like kind of database-driven content. I was coding it up in PHP actually at the time, and so I basically there was like back in those days, I think there was there was some of these blogs that would cover like, the early SEO techniques. Overture, I think, had a tool, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Google didn't give you search volume. And so you could look up kind of this very directional, it would time out all the time, kind of this Overture tool where you could get a little bit of keyword volume. And so I kind of pieced together all these different things and started to do SEO on the templates.
Love that. Now, fast forward to today, to how when you decided to build BrightEdge. Tell us a story of how BrightEdge was founded.
So so for my day job, I was at Salesforce, and I was this is 20 years ago when Salesforce was still sort of pushing into the enterprise, and I was on the platform products team, and I was building what became App Exchange, a part of the team that built that, and that was really fun, sort of understanding how the kind of software would move into the cloud. But as I mentioned, for fun, I'd always built websites, and to get traffic to those sites, I did SEO. And so I looked at kind of this convergence of, kind of software being born in the cloud and how marketers at that time were not yet doing SEO at the sort of enterprises. And so as I dug into that, I was like, why aren't they doing this? And I started to realize there's no technology that could help them sort of understand where they could start their optimization, what to do next, and make sure they could coordinate that across their sort of different departments and teams. And so that's what gave, sort of birth to the idea of BrightEdge.
Love it, love it. And now BrightEdge has come a long way. I remember using it for the very first time back in 2011, right? That was the first time I actually met you when I was over at SuccessFactors, and it was at the time it was also ahead of the industry of what you were offering at the time as well. And so now you actually have something called is it generative parser? Is that correct?
Yeah,
generative parser.
Yes.
So I love that. Okay, so I see you posting a lot on LinkedIn about AI overviews, which is what I want to talk about today on the show. All about AI overviews. For those that don't even know what AI overview is, can you explain to the crowd of what is AI overviews?
Yeah, so AI overviews is sort of the generally available version of Google's AI inside the search results, right? So if you search and you see sort of this box that kind of pops up and starts to write out an answer, that's the AI version of Google search. Now back earlier this year, it was kind of known as search generative experiences. So it was basically the beta version of AI overviews. And at I/O in May of last year, I guess it's last year at this point because it's now 25, they launched, their AI as AI overviews.
Got it. Okay, so with Google's AI overview, how do you see it transforming, the above the fold real estate, and like how do marketers need to adapt to this change?
Well, I think it's going to change things a lot. So taking a step back, right? Let me talk to you a little bit about sort of what we've seen the evolution of AI overviews. So in the early days of BrightEdge, as we built our parsers, right, as we sort of tried to understand search, we built this thing called the data cube, this massive index of the web, looking at different keywords in the surface area of any website. But underneath that, it was at the early times, really sort of 15 years ago when we built the data cube, it was doing what's text-based, essentially text-based parsing of the search engine results page, right? Kind of doing a query, doing across a lot of keywords, and then parsing through all the top 10 results. Then over the last 5 to 10 years, the search engine results became very visual, right? And so they have, different map packs, different images, different videos. And then so we created this thing called the visual parser that would render the JavaScript, render the search engine result page, calculate out the different pixels, and visually parse the page. Now, in the last 18 months, what we've built is the generative parser, where basically it's interacting with the AI and then parsing out what's happening with the AI. So that's really sort of the data set that we're using to understand AI in search. So we built the generative parser, about 18 months ago, and pointed it at sort of search generative experiences, the beta version of Google's AI, right? We pointed it also at, sort of Chat GPT, sort of looking at the sort of conversational search, right, inside Chat GPT, and parsed out sort of the generative experiences there. And then we also looked at sort of new AI search engines like Perplexity, right? And so as we parse through all of these things, there's a couple major trends. So when you step back and think about what's the impact of AI overviews, the first thing we started to notice across all the AI search engines and all the AI forms of these kind of assisted conversations and research is that these models and experiences are being built industry by industry. So specifically within Google, right, within the early days of AI overviews, when it was in labs, it basically was generating, they were creating a lot of different kinds of formats and a lot of different places where they would decide whether or not to trigger that AI result, right? And so the first thing is it's very industry specific. And we could see in the early days, right, they were doing a lot of AI overviews actually for healthcare, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of surprising. It was actually doing a lot for healthcare. Then it was kind of e-commerce, B2B, and then in the early days, as they were beta testing, all the location sensitive ones like travel, sort of restaurants, all these different ones were getting a lot of, search generative experiences. By the time they launched AI overviews in May, they actually dropped the number by quite a bit, down to about in the teens in terms of how much of the queries would show up with AI overviews. And then if you recall, there was a little bit of challenges with the early sort of Google AI overviews. It would, answer questions and say things like pizza on glue and stuff like that. And as a result of that, they dropped the number of AI overviews down to kind of single digit percentages of the keywords. But they've steadily ramped that up over the last 6 months. So they started to really sort of tune the AI overviews, the quality of AI overviews. And so what's been really interesting is leading up until Black Friday, they were doing a lot of experimentation in e-commerce. That started to stabilize as we headed into the shopping season. They also then ramped up travel. So you kind of see that happen in terms of them ramping up by industry. And then more recently, right, in the last kind of 6 weeks or so, they really ramped up location sensitive sort of queries, right? As I was mentioning earlier, they tested a lot of that, leading up to the launch, leading up to the summer launch, but then they kind of dialed it way back, and then they've kind of ramped that back up at the back half of the year, and they've been rolling out internationally quite a bit. The impact to search and search marketers, I think is number one, it's industry specific. It starts, you gotta really look at sort of what industry are you in, and then from the industry, then it's keyword patterns, right? What kind of query types are going to trigger AI? Right. And then from there, it's the kind of experience, right? The kind of format that they use that are generated by the AI. And we've cataloged all these different kinds of formats. And I think about how you optimize for these different queries in different areas. So I'd say really sort of think of it, in the simplest form. You want to really pay attention to what industry, what query type, and then the kinds of the amount of screen real estate that it's going to be taking up as well. So those are some of the key things that I think, to pay attention to.
Wow, man, dropping game here, dropping some bombs. I love that. Okay, so when you say queries and industries, what have you been seeing? Like what kind of queries have you been seeing that have been kind of triggering the AI overviews?
So it's very interesting. In the earlier days of AI overviews when they launched, and by earlier days, I literally mean 3 months ago, right? Okay. It was really getting pretty good at very much explicit kind of informational queries, like what is, how to, these types of things that used to be more kind of the classic quick answer type of queries, like a lot of that type of format would generate AI overviews. And now it's getting even more, two things are happening. It's getting better at implicit things, right? So if I do if I look for a microbrewery or something like that, it will know, in some of these type of queries, it will implicitly understand the location intent behind that term. So it's not like a pure long tail query, right? And it actually understands, there's location intent here, and therefore I'm going to use an AI overview to look for, good microbreweries near you, the reviews, the ratings, and generate all these different types of AI aggregated sort of experiences where the AI goes and does all the queries, then summarizes it and creates a format.
Excellent.
Love it. So I'm curious. On when you say the intent. So we're talking about like multi-layered intents here, right? So like I'm curious, like how so how should brands like look at this? How can they look at possibly optimizing for multi-layered intent?
I think one of the most important things is you're going to really have to start mapping out clusters of long tail keywords to understand what kinds of intent are present, right? Because that's going to really tell you what kind of content and what kinds of content formats and delivery mechanisms are going to matter the most, right? So those are going to be very important. Think about sort of Google My Business. Things with location intent are going to be more important if there's location elements. Product feeds are going to be more important than ever as that also those types of formats all get aggregated into the AI overviews.
Got that. Okay, what about I know like even on some of your posts you mentioned like the content structure like schema. I mean, is that something that's important that we should be paying attention to, or what have you been seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think schema is going to be more important than ever before because I think of schema almost like the meta tags of the AI world, right? Because if you think about it, with classic SEO, we're optimizing meta title, meta descriptions, and things like that, right? But in the world of AI search, the AI engine is not only looking at the unstructured content, right? It's also looking at, I think of it as hints, right? For the engines to understand, oh, this is from this organization, right? This is sort of the kinds of associated information. This is about a specific product, or this is an image, or what have you. So the structured metadata makes it a lot easier for the AI to understand sort of what to do with your content, right? As an example, I think the organization tag is going to be more and more important because I think AI is going to, if you look at it, it's doing more and more citations, right? And so what it's going to want to understand is what was the original source and how much can I trust that original source, right? And so those are going to be elements where having metadata that gives the AI search engines hints, I think is going to be very, very important.
Love that. I love that. Okay, so when it comes to AI overviews, have you been seeing only authoritative websites on there, or like have you been seeing some smaller brands or smaller sites show up, or like, or is there like how can like maybe if not, how can smaller brands show up if they can?
That's a great question. So this is something that actually we also looked at not only Google, but we actually looked at Google versus SearchGPT or OpenAI as well as Perplexity. And it turns out what's really interesting is Google probably has the broadest niche index and uses more of those niche sites than almost anybody else, right? Okay. Even though, all of us from a search marketing and SEO perspective, we're thinking about, is Google only going to reward the big brands? It turns out of the AI search engines, you actually have the best shot in doing well as a niche site as Google versus all the other ones. And it kind of makes sense because if you think about it, right, like the OpenAI index is really based on Bing. And so just the size of these indexes and Perplexity has a great index, but the size of these index, the breadth of the crawl, the size of sort of the real-time nature of information, these are all dimensions that Google just has a better broad index for. And so that's pretty interesting. So in terms of do niche sites show up? The answer is yes. We definitely see niche sites showing up. In fact, it's gotten better at going into the niches over the last kind of 10 weeks than it was even 10 weeks ago. And so you'll see the classic example I'll give is like, even in general media, for example, there were a lot more citations, 2-3 months ago for something like a USA Today or, some New York Times and things like that. Now it knows, I'll go to Bloomberg for financial news, right? It's also getting much more specific in not only like take, for example, like travel. It's not just looking at, things to do in New York in the major metropolitan areas. It's literally now, understanding things in much smaller cities, right? And sort of, a great ice skating rink in a specific smaller city, like trigger AI overview. So it's getting much more sort of specific in its understanding of the query and where to use the AI and what sources that it can cite for those types of information.
Love it. Okay, so I know we for the most part we talk about AI overviews, but I want to talk a little bit more about, let's say, Search GPT and Perplexity. I'm like, what are some trends you're seeing there? Because I personally have not tried their search engine. I still stick to Google, but I'm curious, like, what is do you see any threats there, or are they taking any market share? What are your thoughts on Search GPT or Perplexity?
So great question. So a couple things. The big picture, we track very closely what is the market share of it as it relates to these different search engines as a percent of the referral traffic to brands, right? If you think about it as we're trying to get traffic to our site, so we look at this very, very closely. So it turns out, right, when Microsoft launched together with OpenAI kind of Bing's integration, right, with GPT, they took a little bit. There was a little bit increase for Bing, and then it kind of dropped back and held steady. And Google, there's a lot of discussion of like how much impact it would have on Google. Google's still dominant in the 90s, and it hasn't dropped in terms of the market share in terms of traffic. What is really interesting, right? All this being said, is that for the first time in over a decade, there are new search engines that are starting to drive referral traffic. So Search GPT, specifically now it's integrated into Chat GPT, right, is growing at the last report we just put out, they're growing 44% month over month in terms of traffic. They're on a trajectory now to hit about 1% of the referral market share in search sometime this year. So they are a player. It's the first time this has ever happened in 10 years, right? It's always been kind of like, Google and Bing for the last 10 years. So outside of the international markets, obviously. But
Man, that's crazy. Because I mean, if we're talking about like sites with like millions of traffic, I mean, you'll see a dent with that one small percentage there, right? You'll see it take away. I'm curious, has anyone tried to, or have anyone, maybe like any customers or like and anyone that you've spoken to, try to like fight it in a way, or are they kind of playing along and saying, hey, let's see how we can get into Chat GPT more? And I'm curious, like, how, if they do, like, how are they getting into Chat GPT more?
Yeah, I think that what's happening now is that people are really trying to understand, right, Search GPT and Chat GPT. And one of the things that's really interesting about it is, when ChatGPT was first launched, right, it was really sort of on this spectrum of just giving you the answer, right? You would type in the question, it would just give you an answer. It would assist you with a specific task, right? And search was not as much kind of a front and center experience. And in fact, the index was stale, right? It wasn't a real-time index.
Yeah.
And there are a couple pieces of this that were very interesting. One is it would give you an answer, it wasn't a fresh index, and it didn't cite or link back out to the source, right? And so those are sort of some of the dimensions. But then you had Perplexity kind of launch a kind of from the ground up AI-driven search engine. And the approach they pioneered was kind of transparency and citation. In other words, the AI tells you where did it get its information, right? And they kind of pioneered the format of kind of almost like a research paper with, hey, this is citation 1, citation 2, citation 3, this is where I got all the information. And then Google kind of came up with something that's in between the two, where AI Overviews has some of those citations, right? And it has some on the sidebar, some inside. But what you'll see now, the entire industry has moved towards more kind of openness in the citation, right? So as a marketer, the first thing is, am I in the citation, right? But the second thing that's really interesting now is also, does the query actually mention your brand, right? Okay. So for example, if I'm Nike and I'm trying to sell basketball shoes, does it show up as one of the recommended shoes, right? Yeah. If I ask ChatGPT, right? So these are some of the things that are starting to happen. Is like, what are the queries that I should be looking at? Where do I get cited? Where do my competitors get cited? Right? When do I get mentioned? Are my competitors mentioned? Right? What is my share of conversation, of the AI conversation? That's sort of how we're thinking about this, and what I think is going to be the future frontier.
Love that. So how can people or how can companies track this or know this? Can we see it in our regular like Google Analytics, or do we have to use special tools out there?
Yeah, so what you're starting to see is sort of, we certainly, one of the things that we've added is the ability, what we call our data cube becomes generative, so you can actually see your footprint within Google's AI. And you can then integrate and stitch together information, right, of what is the referral traffic, right? How are you showing up from a click-through perspective, right? One of the big things our customers have been talking a lot about, and I think one of the things that we provide is the ability to kind of stitch together all those data sets so you can start to see, when I have this keyword, what is the number of impressions for this? Does an AI overview show up? What is the number of clicks that I'm getting from this? And if you go into the details of that, you'll start to see, the presence of AI overview, and the impact that it starts to have on click-through rates, especially when you start to look at especially when you look at the October, when you see like October to November to December, for most sites and for most companies, it has been growing. The AI overviews has been growing by about, sort of at least 50% per month, in most of these sites sort of footprint. It's still a small portion of the overall keyword landscape for most of these companies, but it's growing very quickly in terms of the numbers that are showing up with AI overviews. So it's definitely something we should look at.
Okay, so you're actually seeing, so when a site shows up on AI overviews, Google's taking away the click, right? I mean, or we're losing that CTR. Is that correct? Because I mean, they're showing everything right there in the AI overviews, or it's because I'm starting to see sometimes even in some of my sites, I'm seeing where I'm seeing a ton of impressions, but like my click through is just tanked. I'm like, what happened? Like I'm getting more impressions now, and is it because of this? That's you see what's going on here.
It's definitely one of the key dynamics, right? And so I think it's definitely something to keep a very close eye on. And in addition, one of the things we've been talking a lot about is also think about impressions. In search for the longest time, impressions has been kind of a second level metric, not something that people care as much about because it's just like about the clicks and the conversions. But the reality is more of the interaction is going to be happening within the AI engines, right? Within that AI experience. And so the impressions will matter more than it did before. And so starting to understand and measure impressions and understanding, are you showing up? The other thing I'd say that's very important as you start to look at this new landscape, and we're already seeing it with our customers and when they're using sort of our measurement, is really look at brand and non-brand separately, right? Okay. Brand and non-brand, because actually AI overviews also shows up for brand terms, right? Okay. So you're gonna look at those things pretty separate, and the click-through behavior is pretty different there as well.
Love it. Okay, now let's get into BrightEdge's role into this whole evolution of AI. I mean, we talked about as a generative parser. Can you tell us more, give us more details on what generative parser is doing and what it's showing us and what insights it's actually giving us that we can take action on?
Yeah, so first and foremost, the generative parser is an underlying technology that we use to now power our DataCube X. DataCube X is basically a massive research index that helps you understand what is your footprint, where do you show up, where do your competitors show up in search, what keywords can you go after. But that's now generative. So it actually shows you what are the topics that you're showing up in the AI overviews, right? And that actually gives you a good sense of where you have authority in the AI. Yeah. And you can do that and compare it also with your competitors and understand sort of, well, what does the engine trust my competitors for from an AI perspective? And so you can start to understand sort of where am I trusted by the AI? Where do I have work I need to do to build up my authority in AI? So it's kind of that research capability within the DataCube is powered by the generative parser now. You can then take that and then do real-time research with a technology called BrightEdge Instant, where Instant now is also powered by the generative parser. So you can take that set and, for example, you might say, hey, as AI overviews gets rolled out to 50 to 100 countries, let me check where I'm showing up across these different countries. So in real time, you can take those keywords check it and see if AI overviews are showing up in the major markets that you're trying to manage, right? So that's kind of the real-time research capability. Then our reporting allows you to be able to understand, do AI overviews show up? Are you in the AI overviews? And then also stitch it together with both analytics and GSC. GSC becomes a very important data set, Google Search Console, because you want to be able to marry together, again, this concept of impressions, right, to the presence of the AI overview on the SERP page, to the keyword opportunities, to then the clicks and the conversions, and stitch that whole picture together so that you can understand sort of the impact of AI overviews.
Got it. So I think I remember you talking about share of conversations. Is that right? You talk about share of conversations on LinkedIn. Can you tell us more about what's the share of conversation about?
I think a lot of it is really sort of about understanding, are you one of the things that is cited by the AI, especially in that case on the non-branded search terms, right? So in each of the categories, right, it's, take for example, B2B, right? In the future, in B2B software, right, before your buyer even shows up before your sales team even shows up, right, the AI will have probably been the thing that drafted the RFP, right? It probably created the short list to go send out the RFIs. Well, the question is, what's your share of that? When a CIO goes in and says, what virtualization, hyper virtualization software should I consider? What are the key attributes? And give me a matrix for this. Are you sort of influencing that? Are you a part of driving that criteria? Is your brand and is your product one of the things that's a share of that conversation that's happening inside the AI, right? We really believe that that's kind of the future of where this goes, right? And I'm giving you kind of B2B just as an example. Wow, it's not just, people going and searching for things. Now the AI will do the search, construct the grid, and actually come up with a short list, right? That entire sort of marketing funnel, right, and that journey is being sort of transformed by the AI. And so we have to understand as marketers, what is our share of that conversation? How do we influence that, right, and be able to impact that?
Got it. And I'll ask this again, like, just for those, like if they're saying, like, okay, that's great, but how can we influence that? what are ways you're seeing, like, people influencing the AI to get shown up, like, or being considered?
Great question. So I think the first thing is this. When you take any of these sort of critical conversations and queries, you can understand sort of where you have currently, where you're already showing up, and the related topics. So that to me is kind of like the low-hanging fruit. Start there, right? Okay. Then as you get into areas where you need to influence it, what becomes very interesting is there are news sources. There's like a frontier of news sources, right, of information. And just like in the classic, I have this sort of table, right, where it's like classic world of search, there is link building, right? In the new world of AI-driven, it's now influencing the data sources, right? The publications and sources that impact the reputation, right? So you can kind of envision, right, that, and you can kind of see it's very interesting. Like when Google first launched AI overviews, it was using Reddit and Quora in a lot of queries, right? Now in the developer area, right, it uses Stack Overflow, right? In each of these areas, there are sources of information, right, that the AI is using that generates, right, some of the answer. It doesn't purely use that, right? It actually still has, in our day, right, there's this concept of query diversity, right? So a query will branch out and get different sources of information, right? AI has a version of that. And so, but a part of this is understanding what are those information sources that you need to influence and manage your reputation for, right? That becomes another frontier that is going to be a part of, I think, this next wave of optimization.
Love it. Okay, so now, I mean, let's go into more of like some future predictions that you see coming out, and how people can start planning for this. Because I mean, with AI overviews dominating search, what do you see like the big the big shift in search behavior, and how should marketers start preparing for it now?
So first and foremost, it's no longer about optimizing for a single query. A single query, a single keyword will branch out into 5-6 related queries. The power core of AI-driven search is that it actually makes the average searcher 100 times better at searching, because it anticipates all the follow-up questions, all the related queries that you would run if you were a really good searcher. And it just does that for you and then summarizes the information. And it does a really good job of that, right? Like that, and it's going to get better and better at that. So what that means for us as marketers, as SEOs, is we need to make sure we don't just, I think of it as, don't just answer the initial question from the keyword, answer all the follow-up and all the people also asks, right? Like those are important part of that entire surrounding area that you need to optimize for. So that's number one. Number two, it's going to become multimodal, right? You kind of see this battle between OpenAI and Google play out where, and by multimodal, I mean, if the last year and a half has been all about large language models with generative AI, which is all about text, the next wave is all about videos and images and the AI really sort of understanding that, right? So that's a very important dynamic that is up and coming as well. And last but not least, as I mentioned, I think Search GPT, Chat GPT, right, which now has Search GPT built in, is now going to become, in the next 12 months, actual force within the search ecosystem that we need to start planning for and optimizing for.
Love it. Okay, I love that. Okay, I want to go ahead and ask any questions for anyone in the audience. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask them when I ask my last question here, and we'll see if anything comes in. But for those that want to get into become an SEO professional or get into the SEO industry, what would your advice be to them?
So I think SEO, first and foremost, I think SEO is one of the most exciting and most dynamic areas in all of marketing, right? I think it's it's something where it's constantly changing. There's constantly innovation. So my biggest sort of advice is be agile, right? Keep learning every day. I mean, I think it's constantly changing. That's part of what makes it fun to be an SEO professional. It's also one of the daunting challenges of being an SEO professional is staying on top of all the changes that are happening. And then also, probably one of the most underrated skills of an SEO is learn how to evangelize, right? Because as SEOs, I think there's a lot of us that are really good at sort of optimizing our sites and learning that next sort of key technique, but also being able to tell the story to the rest of the organization, being able to help everybody understand the impact of visibility online, being seen, understanding those keywords and queries that matter at the executive level, right? So that you can make the case for SEO and help drive those changes. The storytelling, right, and evangelizing is a huge part of, I think, of becoming a successful SEO professional.
Love it. I didn't see any questions come in. So for this episode to feel complete for you, any last comments that you want to share, and how can people get a hold of you?
Just really excited about what's happening with AI and search this year, and always at BrightEdge, I love the opportunity to partner with SEOs out there. And so if there's anything that I can do to help or just to continue the exciting conversation, I'm at jim@brightedge.com.
Love it. Everyone's give a round of applause. Jim, can you hold on for one quick second? Hold on for one quick second while I sign off here. Hold on. All right, guys, that concludes another episode of the SEO Video Show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And don't forget to visit our today's sponsor, AI Marketeer. That's AI-M-R-T... AI Marketeer. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Peace out.
Watching. Hope you come back next week. Make sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss a thing. Hope you learn something new, because the vibe is incredible. From the special SEO professionals, SEO video show. Let's work. Want to see you be an SEO expert. Paul-Andre de Vera helping you step it up. No delay right now. Time to level up. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Woo.